Let's Plan It. We're glad you're here. So yesterday, we had a most marvelous time learning about X-planes and these beautiful, amazing planes NASA is working on that are working on to go supersonic speeds without that supersonic sound. And one day we could travel super fast and pretty much cut out any travel time down to about half of what we are used to when we were going to and flying somewhere in a plane. Before we, don't worry about it if you didn't have time to do research, you got all week. Because remember, the challenge is find somebody in aviation that is a little known, and you want to make that known to your friends and fellow compadres here. The other thing was to, if you could, figure out a very great visual way to explain the Bernoulli principle. Before we go to our guest, here is what we're going to do. So Tristan, I am going to highlight your video. Do you have, I'm going to make you, I'm going to spotlight you. I need you to unmute so you can tell us and explain Bernoulli's principle to all of us.
Okay, so I was going to build a wind tunnel, but I didn't have that much time. So what Bernoulli's principle states, that is, when there's an area of low pressure and high pressure, it generates lift, which is one of the reasons why that's why plane wings are designed the way they are, why they have that arch that go over them and then they're flatter on the bottom. It's to create low pressure up here and high pressure down here, which is essentially creating a solid patch of air for the wing to sit on. So that way it can create lift, and that way the plane can fly.
You know what? You've explained it better than most videos that I have seen. Anything else you want to add?
Not really. That's
beautiful job. All right, Tristan, you get a prize. And tell your mom I have to make sure I have your guys' correct mailing address. All right. Beautiful work. I'm going to stop your spotlight. I'm going to switch over here to my good friend, Yohon Low, who is an engineer at Marshall Space Flight Center. We've been friends for quite some time, and we both truly love education and doing hands-on stuff. So Yohon, thank you for being here this morning with everybody.
You're welcome. And since it's been a while since I talked to kids, please do stop me anytime if you have questions or if you want me to slow down or so forth. And what else? Yeah. So let me go in and share my. Oh, give me a second. I need to open my charts.
Yeah. No worries.
Do you want me to do that, or you want me to just go and talk? I mean, how do I?
It's really whatever if you want to tell them first about maybe how it was that you became an engineer, like what did you study when you were young? How did you find your way there? And then we'll go to your presentation if that's okay.
Yeah, so first of all, I never used Zoom before. I always use WebEx, Skype, and other stuff that, my company allowed me to use. We don't allow Zoom, so can't bear with me. Okay, so like Jenna said, my name is Yohon Loh, and I was born in Taiwan, and my family moved to the United States a long, long time ago. I don't want to tell you when because I'm showing my age, okay? And so ever since I was young, I love space and airplanes and science fiction and so forth. So make a long story short, when I graduated from high school, I went to University of Tennessee in Knoxville, Tennessee, and studied to be a nuclear engineer. And so move fast forward, I got my bachelor's degree, master, and PhD in nuclear engineering from UT Knoxville, and I ended up working for NASA Marshall Space Flight Center as a contractor. And I always have to make that distinction clear, is that I'm a contractor supporting NASA. I'm not a government employee. So when I say I work for NASA, it is partly true. I work for them, but most of supporting them. So it's kind of one of those weird things you have to be careful. I've been supporting NASA Marshall Space Flight Center since 2000. So I've been working in space industry since then. And I do a lot of stuff. Mainly my background is engineering and math. So I do a lot of probability analysis, like calculating yes?
You have a question?
Yes, she raised her hand.
Yeah, Abby, what's your question?
Abby. Can I hear you, Abby?
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
She raised her
But
hand, so I figure.
yeah,
Yeah,
it is a question.
we have a problem sometimes with
Yeah,
sound.
Understand?
yeah, it's okay,
Oh,
baby.
Abby. I
Yeah,
know it's not
I
doing what
know.
it's
It's like
supposed to
it's
Do you
do.
some
want
weird
to
thing.
type something?
It's like, can you type something? He'll be glad to answer it. Again, no need to fret. I do not understand. Sometimes we have very strange things happen here in the
Oh, I
land.
know.
Yeah. And it's just one of those quirks of being virtual. But hey, Niara, you're back with your kitty cat. Good morning. Hi. Very good. All right. What's your question there, Abby? Oh, there's something wrong with your keyboard. All right.
No, she says no.
All
Just
right.
wait.
It's just the sound. It doesn't do the Alt plus A to unmute.
Yeah.
And I can't unmute her either. I tried. Did
Yeah,
you?
I
Jenny?
tried as well. I tried as well. Let me see
Usually
if
we
there's any
can, but
other
this time I
setting.
can't.
Let's see if I, oh, I am, you are typing. I tell you what, we're gonna let Yohon continue to talk.
Okay.
And then when we see the comment, that's when I'll burst in and ask. Okay.
Now I
So
also have my chat open up so I can see it too.
yeah, you can also chat to Dr.
Everyone.
Yohon Lowe. All right, continue on there, my friend.
Okay, so what else? So I do a lot of stuff at work. So I did, I do probability calculation, probability of bad thing happening. Okay. And also, so right now I'm over in the engineering department. So we design flight software for the NASA SLS rocket. So that's like 80% of my job right now. And eventually I'm going to spend some time working on the lunar lander program. Don't know when that will be, but sometime soon they're gonna move some of us over there because they need support. Yes, you can Google me, but I don't know how much information is out there. Okay. And so the best way to find out what I do for a living is through LinkedIn, LinkedIn. That's a kind of professional network. But I don't do a lot of stuff online. I'm on Facebook, but I usually don't post weird stuff. I usually post stuff once in a while just to mess up Facebook algorithm, you know. And so that's one thing is, as an advice for all you young kids out there, be careful what you post online, because
Yeah,
it'll come back and
absolutely.
haunt you,
Very
So-
true.
It does.
Oh yeah,
But let's
and go ahead.
But and Abby, it's like I love your curiosity and stuff. But again, sometimes it's like I would even say that as adults who do a lot of contract stuff or jobs, that it's like they don't post a lot online because again, they have to be very careful about how they share information. But again, Yohon has been working as a contractor for over 20 years. I mean, the fact that you're working on the engineering of the SLS or the lunar lander and the front end is it basically the electronics for how the rocket flies?
No. So it's more on software. So I can get you that. I can tell you that a little bit as we go through the charts.
Okay.
So you know what? Let's go and do that. Just
Okay.
bear with me.
Uh-huh.
I have my charts open up and
the green share screen button.
okay, I gotta figure out how I'm gonna do this since I never done this with Zoom. Share screen.
And then click the one where your slides are. Click this, the open thing there.
Okay, I'm gonna do.
Or you know what I could do? I could share your.
That would be great if you can, because
Yeah. Let me
Yeah,
share.
so-
From my screen. 1 second, and I will download those quickly.
Yeah.
And tell them a little bit about what, like, again, a nuclear engineer. Is that what you have your
Okay.
master's and PhD in?
Yeah. So initially, when I went through school, I went to, I don't want to go into my background history here, but when I was in high school, the department head from UT Knoxville, the nuclear engineering department, came down and visit us and talk about, recruiting. Okay, and they do that to all high school kids. And we talk, and oh, nuclear engineering sounds fun. I do want to go into nuclear medicine at that time. Okay, so I figured, yeah, I can get an engineering degree and then nuclear, and then move on to nuclear medicine. And then plus, University of Tennessee at that time gave a discount to South Carolina resident, which I live, and said if you're from South Carolina, you come to UT and study nuclear engineering, you can get in-state tuition,
Ah,
and that is a lot of saving. Okay,
that's a
so
lot of money.
Wow.
yeah, so when there, and I kind of like what I do, and after after I get my undergraduate degree, I thought about, well, do I want to get a job or get a higher degree, like master degree? And I said, well, let's go ahead and get a master degree since I'm still young, because as you get older, you tend to forget stuff. So if you have the time and energy, get your advanced degree all at once. Okay.
I agree.
Yeah. And then okay, move forward. Once I got my PhD, I started looking for a job, and I got I found a job. And ironically, this is kind of interesting. I found two positions, one in Houston and one in Huntsville, doing the exact same thing. And I decided to pick one in Huntsville because it's closer to my family.
Ah,
Right?
good
And I
choice.
did end up talking with I did end up with good friends with the folks in Houston because we worked on the same program on the space shuttle. And yeah, so maybe in a parallel world, I could be living in Houston and doing something else more fun.
I think you are exactly
Okay.
where you are supposed to be, my dear. And it's like one more step here, and it looks like it
Okay,
is
no problem.
opening up. So
So initially when I started, okay, I started calculating, since my background's in math a little bit in engineering, I was put into a group that does probabilistic risk analysis. Okay, what that means is we calculate the probability of certain thing happening. Like from a space shuttle program, for example, which I worked on for about 12 years, is probability of the shuttle blowing up, or probability of shuttle not working properly. And so that's kind of one of our job there. I was kind of leading the work effort from the Marshall side, working with other centers and working with other experts, and try to assess the space shuttle, try to understand what was the kind of failure modes, what can go wrong with the shuttle, and how likely is it. So we can tell the management and engineers, say, based on our data, we can tell you that this part tend to break more easily, or that part is pretty reliable, so don't worry about fixing it if we don't have the money. Okay, and also advising them, if we have X amount of money that we need to do upgrades, what can you spend on? So for example, if most of you play video games, okay, let's say you want to mod your skill. Okay, you have a certain amount of coins, and say, well, I want to get more health, or do I want to get more weapons, or do I want to get more this? You have to do a trade on what do you do, and what's your mission is going to be, so you can make that trade. So that's what we do a lot. And then in 2012, I decided to leave that organization, which is safety, and move to engineering to be more in line with design, to get more hands-on. So I still do some analysis on probability of bad thing happening, but I'm also doing more on design work, and I can talk to you about more about that later as we go on.
all right. Do
And
you see your slides
yes, I
up
do.
there? All right.
Okay, so that's who I am. Okay, my name is Yohon Low. You can Google my name. Okay, and my company is called ERC. We're a small, mid-sized company based out of Huntsville. We support NASA and Air Force in multiple cities. And like I said, I live in Huntsville, Alabama. So if you haven't been here before, great, thank you. If you haven't been here before, when the whole COVID thing dies down, come on in for a visit. Space Camp is good. It's getting better and better every year. And we got a lot of great stuff to do. If you like outdoor hiking, if you want to fly airplane, we have the second longest runway in North America. So in theory, that's true. In theory, we could land in space shuttle here if we wanted to.
Wow, I never knew that. That's pretty great.
If we wanted to. Okay. And if you're lucky, you can once in a while you can see the guppy, which is the NASA aircraft that looks like a guppy fish that carry hardware to and from different NASA center.
Ah,
They do
okay.
land here once in a while to drop off stuff for testing at Marshall.
Adia, you have a question. You want to
Yes.
unmute?
Yes.
What's your question?
What is software?
Software. Okay, software is a code that runs a computer or runs a hardware. So let's say if you have a phone, a smartphone, okay? And what what makes it go, well, actually this Zoom is the software, okay? Behind the software is like lines of codes, like, if this happened, do this, that happened, do that, that's how to say, that's how people code up the system to make system works.
And we talked a little bit a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure you were here when we were talking about binary. And again, it's almost like we did in Scratch at scratch.mit.edu. You know how you can select an event and then you slide something else. If this happens, then this. So it's an if and then proposition. It's an on or off. It's an up or down. It's a left or right. It's press this button. Your hardware is that stuff that is like really super durable, kind of like, all right, these are the things that are going to be there. Your software just says, oh, let's run this program. Let's do Adobe or Zoom or Minecraft.
Correct. Well, for example, let's say if you want to unmute your mic, you press a button on your screen, it says unmute. What software does is register a click in that area, okay? And that area corresponds to a icon or a input device called unmute. So when it sees that and says, okay, this event, unmute event has occurred. What do I need to do? One, I need to, go to the speaker, go to the microphone on the computer, turn on. I also need to, update the icon from red to green or something like that, and then start listening for, input, which is your voice, and then transmit that into binary, into, online to a server and so forth.
Very nice. Thank you for that question. No, a great question.
That's a great question. No,
All right, so that kind of goes right here to design.
Okay, not yet. So let's go back up, okay? Can you go back one slide, Janet?
Oh, one slide, sure.
Yeah, okay, so right there. So on the very last bullet, so what I do a board analysis, which is probability of surviving a failure, okay? And another thing I want to do is that I wear many hats. One of them, which I love, is if you ever watch space movie or thing with rocket lifting off, you hear flight controller or launch directors say go or no go, okay, to ask for guidance, nav or eclipse, go or no go before they can push a button and launch a rocket. Part of my job is that we design a list of criteria that says if this happened, okay, you do not go for launch, you sit tight, you scrub the mission, and you figure out what's wrong, okay? So that's how I can mention a go and no go list. And I'm also, so part of that is I am responsible for the one that flies the software that flies the SLS rocket are responsible for. So I'm the one gathering those lists, assessing them, make sure they're good, get approval from different group management, bring them up to NASA headquarters, get them approval, and says, here are the lists that we're going to, if this were to happen, we're going to scrap the launch. Are you guys good with that? Okay. Not just because I cannot make a decision, I had to make a recommendation, then our program manager has to be aware of it, and then you can go up the chain. And eventually the NASA mission directors for the specific mission had to be concurred that, because they want to know exactly what can go wrong with the rocket, what you're going to do when something odd happens, okay? They don't be caught in surprise, okay?
All right.
Okay. And I also work with the astronaut office, once in a while. So that's always cool. Okay, so we mentioned a little bit about flight software. This is kind of very, 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 very simple idea of what we design the software. So typically when we design software, we just don't sit down and start writing codes. We don't do that because as a large organization, especially you're working on something that's cost billions of dollars, you do not want to trust one or two people start coding stuff up on their whim. Okay, so good. So if this apply to any discipline you want to do at home, okay, you want to think ahead of what you want to do. For software, we do flow charts. Okay, like Janet said, we said some event. Okay, we said we're going to start with this event. We're going to do this. Going to if then, true false statement. We ask that question. Let's say we want to make rocket go left. No, not go left. We want to ignite the engine, start the engine. What do we need to do? We need to say, we need to check, make sure we have fuel coming in. We'll make sure that our temperature is right. I'll make sure our pressure is right. I'll make sure we get a go for launch command or go for engine start command from the launch directors. Okay, so we're gonna get all that information in, and before the computer can send a command to engine 1, start your engine. Okay, and once we do that, we do go through another algorithm to check for the health of the engine. Make sure engine doesn't send anything back to the flight software and says, by the way, my temperature is running hot. You want me to keep going or shut down? Okay, so stuff like that, that's what software does. It monitors the health of the vehicle and determine what to do next. So what I like to use is just like your car to check engine light. Okay, you have different colors. Okay, some of them you can ignore them. Okay, but something like yeah, something red pops up, you need to stop because that usually means something bad. Or like fasten your seatbelt. Yeah, you want to put on this safety thing. So, and then once we design that that flow chart, we have review process with different experts. We have folks from different NASA centers who are involved in different hardware. We have the astronaut office coming in and say, yeah, that's what they want to do. Well, no, they want to see additional caution and warning message. Or they provide feedback, say, no, if this would happen in flight, we would do this. So don't do that, okay? Just tell us what to do, or you know what, just do what you need to do and just tell us afterward, okay? Then once we agree that this is the flow of the logic we want the software to do, we turn around and we give that to our geeks, okay? That's our computer coders. They're the one who can code stuff in their sleep. And that's what we take the flow chart and translate them into C++. That's the software code we're using right now. And a lot of time, you don't recognize the steps or the procedure in the code because a lot of us engineers, we don't read C++ by heart because it's hard. I know how to do Fortran, I know how to do basic, okay? But C++ sometimes it's just a bit hard for me to learn sometimes. And once they do it, the flight software group code that up, they test it, and then they share us their test results and say, oh yeah, by the way, we test your code, okay? You say, if temperature reaches 2000 degrees, I'm going to see this message comes out. And they said, nope, it doesn't come out. For some reason, it didn't come out, okay? Or it comes up, but it tells you something else. So we as a team sit down and go through the code and says, what's wrong, okay? Why doesn't it work like we expect it to? So it's just kind of your debugging thing, So that's why you find your glitches, okay? You want to do that before you put astronaut on there or put a software on a piece of rocket. If you that's why you hear the word beta testing a lot. That's why you see your phone doesn't work sometimes because you say, really, I pressed this button, it doesn't work because sometimes there's a glitch, or design flaw or something that prevents you that function to be executed. And our job is to do testing. We test software by itself. Okay. We also do hardware plus software tests, which means is we actually have some hardware like an engine or like a try to think of what, or flight computer or power system. We actually put them in a lab, hook everything up with the software and says, okay, can I gimbal my engine 5 degrees? And if the software does it, great. If software commanded and nothing happened, we'll figure out why. So we do a lot of this hardware testing, as we go. Okay.
Awesome.
And I know this is I'm kind of rambling a little bit because I don't want to go into too much detail, but of course, if you have any question, just ask.
But you know what, Yohon, I love this because that's so clear about how you guys test some of this stuff. And it, you know what I mean? It's like, thank you.
It's a lot of good video online. I just didn't have time to pull it because I don't know how to process. And, and I say this, but we as NASA, since we're a government agency, we are using taxpayers' money. We had to do things a certain way. Okay, sometimes we don't like it, but that's how we have to do it. And two, we'll make sure that when we launch a rocket or test a hardware that costs millions or billions of dollars, we'll make sure that we'll make sure that it function properly. Because it's kind of hard to explain to the president, to Congress, says, yeah, we just blew up $2 billion rocket because we forgot to test something that we should have. Okay, it's different than making a small widget that costs 25 cents or costs $5, $5 that you can test them before you bring them to market. Okay, budget constraint. We operate differently than SpaceX. We operate differently than Blue Origin. So just a lot of things that we don't want to go into detail about. Okay, so so the following charts are something about SLS, and this is the rocket I worked on. And there's a lot of information online. I'm gonna try to give you some highlights of it. And of course, stop me anytime, ask me questions. And if I know the answer, I'll answer them. If I don't know the answer, I'll make that up. Okay. No, I won't do that. Okay. So, the SLS is Space Launch System. It essentially is the next generation of heavy lift rocket. What that means is that heavy lift is what it is able to lift a lot of mass into orbit and beyond. And I'll explain that a little bit more later. So SLS is being built by a team from all NASA centers. Okay, and what you see here is all the NASA centers out there. You know about Marshall, it's in Huntsville. You know about Houston, Johnson Space Center. Okay, that's where the astronaut office is, and that's where the Orion program, the capsule works. You know about the Kennedy Space Center. That's where we launch our rockets, our shuttle out of the East Coast. And then you heard about JPL, of course. They the one who designed rover that go to moon, go to Mars. Okay, they're the one that have great little rover that can work by themselves. I'm sorry, it's heard beep, huh? And then you have folks that have NASA Ames. You got Langley, so you got also center across the country. And of course, don't forget about Stennis, STENNIS Space Center. Okay, that's in Mississippi. That's right outside of New Orleans. What do we do there? We do rocket testing down there. It's out middle of nowhere in the swamp. So we test engines out there. So we can test engine for about 8 minutes. And if it blows up, no big deal. Okay, it's middle of nowhere. We should do a lot of testing at Huntsville, but that's before Huntsville got too big, because you really don't want to shake the windows everybody in town, every time you test an engine, big engines. Okay, next. Okay, so what is SLS? Okay, so SLS is part of the Artemis program. So a little bit of history here. Artemis is the twin sister of Apollo. Do you guys know what Apollo is in terms of NASA? Anyone? Janet does. Okay.
We do.
Yeah, so Apollo is essentially the program is this country's first attempt to go to the moon. Okay, since we love mythology, okay, we love symbolism. So we say, well, what do we call this next program that we're going back to the moon to stay and beyond? So we say, well, we're going to call it Artemis, which is twin sister of Apollo. Okay, and you hear a lot.
To brag on my little friend Salza here. She just said, yeah, it's like the first to land on the moon, right? Yep. And you are correct.
Yes.
Yes, first humans. Awesome.
Correct. Okay, so our job is we're going back to the moon, and this time going to stay. Okay, we are building and designing hardware to make us essentially to set up a permanent lunar base. Okay, and there'll be competition. So we know the Chinese is going there hot and heavy, the Indians, and we're teaming up with the European, the Canadians, and the Japanese to bring in more of an international partnership. Okay, and the SLS will carry the Orion spacecraft, which I talked to you about, which is that tiny little capsule. Janet, if you can point the mouse where the capsule is on SLS. No, the SLS crew.
The SLS crew.
Yeah, right there. And you see a little triangle at the top.
Right here?
No, that's the space shuttle.
Okay, so the
Right there.
SLS right here.
So in order, since space is hard to get to, we had to produce a lot of thrust to carry something small, like big enough for 4 people to 6 people to the moon. So that capsule is kind of tiny. It's about the size of your minivan. Okay, and it's just, and that's and so anyway, so we're going to so we're going back to the moon to stay, and then we're going to Mars. So right now we have team working on Mars sample return. We also have team working on Mars ascent vehicles, and I think Tristan mentioned this earlier about the Bernoulli principle. We actually have helicopter that will be flying around on Mars. What, next year? I think whenever the Mars 2020 lands.
Yeah.
And then eventually we're going to build gliders, okay, that can be able to fly and soar on Mars, because Mars had different atmospheric density than Earth. We had to design them differently.
Oh,
Okay.
that sounds so super fun. I want to ride a glider on Mars. Come on, Johan. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Okay. And then one more thing is that since we're going to Mars, and we don't know when yet, okay, maybe in 20 years or so, it could be you. It could be one of you. It could be the next astronaut to stand on Mars. Not me. I'm too old for it. Definitely not Janet. Okay. She can be a tourist. But it's going to be one of you young kids out there. It's going to be the first man or woman to step on the moon. Not you, huh? Okay. Question, Tristan?
No, it just started raining here though, so I might randomly get cut out.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
No
Okay,
worries.
that's
So thank you for letting us know. All right.
Okay. So
yeah,
here.
for me too.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
It
So-
already rained at my house.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of dry here in Huntsville. Clear sky, fall, weather is great. Okay.
I wish
Okay.
it was like that at our house. It's gray outside. You can see it.
Oh man, where do you live?
Texas.
Oh.
Texas.
Oh yeah, so you got the tropical storm Beta, right, coming in. Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, I know it sucks. I got friends in Houston. They're worried too. Okay, so
He
Here-
built a harness.
okay, so here's it's kind of like a a diagram of showing the SLS, okay, in different parts, okay? We don't fly like this. This kind of shows you what different parts are, who makes them, and what they are. I'm not going through so much detail here, but what I want to highlight is that how many of you knows about Space Shuttle? That we flew for about 20, let's see, 80, yeah, 20 plus years, okay? Now, one thing about Space Shuttle is that it goes to low Earth orbit. It doesn't go too far. The good thing about that is we take some of the information, the technology that we learned, that we built from Space Shuttle, and we carry that over to SLS. Okay, I kind of put it as the stars here, the yellow stars. So the engine, we call it the RS-25 engine. Okay, NASA love acronyms. Okay, and those engines are built by Aerojet Rocketdyne out in California. We, for the first 2 SLS mission, or the first 2 Artemis mission, we actually using the same engine from the space that we retired from the space shuttle program. We take them, we clean them up, we add a brand new computer into it, we do some testing and a few modification here and there. Then we put them back on this new rocket. Okay, so we reuse them. Okay, and eventually we're going to start building new engines. Okay, so we're in the process of building that, and I don't know when they'll be coming online.
Johan, why would we build a new engine if this one is,
Because
working?
because SLS is not reusable. So once we launch the rocket,
So it's
we
not
do
like
it.
like the Dragon.
It's not okay. It's not like SpaceX, because there's something is that yes, we can make SLS to be reusable, but then if you do that, you take a hit in your lift about cargo you can carry into space. Okay, because everything you had to carry back, like you had to make sure you have the way to fly it back, you had safe propellant to do your deceleration burn, that cut, okay, that cut amount of propellant into. If you look at SpaceX, sometimes if they want to go into higher orbit or carry higher performance payloads, they do sacrifice one booster for not flying back because they need the extra performance. Okay.
Understood.
Yeah, and then so it's the engine. So the white part, the solid rocket booster. Okay. So those are the same one that we use on the space shuttle. but we enhanced them. On space shuttle, we have 4 segments. Segment is, is how we transport the booster from Utah to Kennedy Space Center. We don't transport entire booster on a train. We transport it in pieces. Okay. And this one on SLS, we use 5 pieces to make up the rocket. And there's a video of that firing later on that that we can look at. And then you have other stuff too. And one thing for our European, for Artemis here, is that our service module, okay, SM here, is made by the European Space Agency, okay? And we actually team up with the European to make that part for us, okay? So there is some history behind it on why we did that. I'm not going into it because I don't want to cause a, international, conflict, but no, we're glad to have European on board on this, okay? And then if you go up, Janet, put your mouse around the capsule, the
Mhm.
crew module.
Right here.
Correct. That's what the astronaut's going to live in. It's big enough for about 46 people. So imagine stuck in a minivan for 20 days. Okay. You must love that person next to you. That's all I can say. Okay.
Oh, going on a road trip. All right.
Yeah. Okay. So here's some information about the SLS, about with the booster, engine, core stage, and upper stage when it came from. And one tidbit here is that we do have a upper stage. What upper stage is that once we get into, we had, this is a multi-stage rocket. We had the booster, we have the core stage, and then we had upper stage. Upper stage is get us, the core stage will get the capsule into low Earth orbit, okay? And then the upper stage, okay, will actually raise our perigee up and then take the capsule and aim it out to the moon, okay? And you see that on the Apollo program. Apollo has the 3rd stage. That's what it is. And one information is that for Artemis 1 and Artemis 2, the upper stage is built by a company called United Launch Alliance out of Decatur, Alabama, okay? They've been building rockets forever. They built Delta rocket, Atlas rockets, and we're essentially using their existing upper stage, and we enhance it. We ask them to make it bigger, make it longer, essentially stretch it out. So they did that, and they tested it, and it's sitting at the Cape right now for 2 years now, ready to be launched. Okay. And here's the picture of the engines on here. Janet told you about how big the rocket is. It's kind of hard to tell how big the rocket is until you see it in person. This is about tall as 300 feet, and it will be a sight when you see it stand vertically at the Kennedy Space Center next year.
Wow.
It
That
is
is
taller
like-
a bit than the Saturn V, right?
Um,
Taller.
the Block 1 is going to be roughly the same, but Block 2 configuration is going to it's going to be taller. We'll get to it a little bit. Okay. And then, okay, so where are we going? Okay. So where are we going? Okay, we're going to the moon and beyond. Okay, and so this chart should be still good. I can pull them off the NASA website. It could be outdated. Yeah, it is outdated. So right now we're looking at the first launch and test flight next November. Okay, sometime November, October, we're going to do a first test. Assume everything goes great. Okay. So the SLS flight on a vehicle is called Block 1. Just that's into our test flight. Like everything you do, we build something and we update it, we enhance it, we make it bigger, make it faster, make it carry more loads. And we're going to carry a unmanned Orion spacecraft around the moon and back. Okay. Well, why we do that? We want to test it out the system. We want to make sure that our environmental system is working. We want to make sure that our heat shield works again. Okay, we want to make sure everything works before you put crew on there. Okay, and then we also will launch 13 CubeSat. Do you know what CubeSat is? Anyone? Besides Janet and Artemis?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so CubeSat is kind of like a satellite that's size of a
Really
bread
small.
box. Okay,
Yes.
US bread box. And we had 13 of them that we're going to send them out on our way to the moon. So we had different bus stop. Okay, that's what they call it, between Earth orbit and right before get to the moon. So once you get to the point, our SLS will start sending out those little CubeSat out in space. So 13 of them, and I don't know all 13 of them by heart, but one of them is managed by a good friend of ours, me and Janet Liz Johnson. It's solar sail, a giant sail in space. We're going to use sunlight for it to move. It's fascinating. Okay, if everything goes well, that solar sail will be going will be going beyond the solar system. No, so we'll see.
That's going to be fun. Adia, did you have another question, my dear?
Yes.
Okay, what was your question?
I read about the spacecraft Voyager 2. How can it left the solar system? How can it go that far?
Okay, so first of all, on Voyager, they do what we call a slingshot. Okay, they go around different planets in the solar system to get gravity assist to go faster. Okay, and once you go in, so space has in space, there's no atmosphere, unless you get close to a planet. So if you go in some direction, you'll keep going, and just you'll get stopped unless you hit something. So once you get going, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going, And Voyager has been flying since what, 1970, Janet? Okay, so about
Well, we just in 2017, remember we celebrated the
40th.
Yes, the 40th. So since 1977.
77. Okay, so it's been flying in space about 45 years, and it just barely left our solar system. Depends on who you talk to, there's different things, but different classification when the solar system
Ends.
Okay, so keep going. So since it's still working, they know how to build stuff back then. It lasts forever, and we can still hear them once in a while. The funny thing is that we actually have to bring up all hardware, all computers to be able to receive Voyager's transmission. Okay, so we have to keep what we call an antique flight computer, antique, data recorder, so we're able to read it. Okay, and it's kind of funny. It's like the hardware that they use to listen to Voyager are older than most of you.
That's very true. Adia, I am so proud of all your questions today. Good work.
Yeah,
Good.
and Google, so do a search on Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, also Pioneers. You'd be surprised about how far they've gone and where they're going. And eventually, once we start going to space, and I will foresee a day where one of our, an astronaut or who going to leave the solar system will come across Voyager, we'll pick them up and bring it back to Earth or somewhere. I won't be surprised unless the alien get hold of it. Then we're all doomed,
And there was actually a movie made about that theme.
Yeah, Star Trek.
Aliens found Voyager and they send it back to us.
Well, yeah, it's called Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, good question. Okay, so 2021 is will be first test flight. We'll make sure everything goes well. If everything goes well, 2022, sometime in 2022 in the fall, I believe, we're going to do the first astronaut launch. Okay, that's when we're going to put a crew on there, and we're going to do what we do on, in Apollo. We're going to send the astronaut around the moon and back, test out the system, make sure they can operate. Okay, and then once we're ready, then 2024, we're going to, send them we're going to land the first woman and our next man to the moon, probably in the South Pole. Okay, and do you know why we want to land in the South Pole?
Anybody want to answer that one? All right, Judah, unmute.
Water and oxygen.
Water.
You're close. It's ice. It's ice. We have remote sensing satellites. We found evidence of ice down there in the craters. Okay, we haven't been able to confirm it. Okay, so we're going to try to land there in the crater or near there. Okay, so we can confirm the presence of water ice. Because why is ice so important? Because we can take ice, we can go through a process called electrolysis that can break the water, bring ice down into oxygen and hydrogen, and we can breathe oxygen. We can use hydrogen as a fuel to burn, okay, both hydrogen and oxygen, okay. And depends on who you talk to. And my belief is that water is very common, water ice is very common in space, especially in solar system, okay. And one more thing I want to mention that is you see we now 2022 and 2024, there's a gap there. Somewhere between 2021 and 2024, our plan is to launch a mission to the moon of Jupiter called Europa. And we're going to just call Europa Clipper. I think that's the name right now. And just to confirm, we know there's water there. We want to confirm presence of water. Also want to be able to confirm presence of life on Europa. How great is that? Say we actually found life on another planet, not dead fossil life, but actually live, thing. Hopefully we don't bring it back because I don't want to see another science fiction movie about alien attack. But we don't know yet. And okay, hold on a second, Janet.
Okay.
So you're gonna love this. Okay, so
Alright.
so right now, before when we land on the moon, we need to work with our commercial partners to build a moon landers. So this is a little bit different than Apollo, where NASA designed and contract out a lander. Now we're having competition with three groups right now: SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Dynetics, to design and build a moon lander. It's called Human Landing System, HLS. You can Google that at your leisure. And so eventually by next year, we'll be down select to 2 and then 1. Okay. And that is way for us, for NASA, to alleviate the cost, to speed up development and try to bring innovation from the private industry into this. Now, so on the bottom of this slide, you see like some pictures, some patches. Okay, so Artemis 1. So that's our mission patch for the Artemis 1 mission. Artemis 2 and Artemis 3, those are blank because they will be designed by the crew, by the astronauts. Okay, I don't know if Jen ever mentioned this, but for at least for the American space program, every time we have a manned space program, the astronaut have a chance to design their own mission patch. Okay, so the crew of Artemis 2 and 3 will design their own mission patch. Okay, you can just imagine. Well, the Artemis 2 is going to go around the moon. Okay, just like the Apollo 8. Okay, you can kind of tell what you're going to do. Artemis 3 is going to be landing on the moon. Can you imagine what it's going to look like? It's going to be like the Eagles, like we did in Apollo 11. It could be something different. We don't know. Depends on who they pick to be the astronauts there. Okay, so I'm interested to see, their design.
It's like a few years ago, Yohon and I did a festival in Huntsville where we had students like you design your mission patch, and then we were laminating. We made a ton of mission patches that weekend.
Okay, so here's some. If you like pretty picture, here's a different rock. I think someone mentioned about different SLS. How tall is it? So right now on your left, SLS Block 1. Okay, this is what we're building now. And we're going to evolve and upgrade SLS into different version. Now, as we go toward the right, okay, it gets bigger, and more capable. Okay, and we have one that carry crew. We have one carry cargoes, and I'm not going to go through them, but you can kind of look at how big it is. So right now, SLS is like 322 feet. And that's just about same height as Apollo. But once you get to the Block 2 SLS cargo, okay, it can lift about, so it says you can lift about 160,000 pounds to the moon. So, and I
Hey kids, do you all know why the crewed, the rockets that are supposed to carry crew and not just goods, why they are these pointy things on top? Like that, it looks like a dart. Does anyone know what that dart is? What's really in there?
that's a good question.
It's very
Anybody?
important.
No.
Living quarters.
Yeah,
Nope.
but you know the really pointy thing on top of the capsule. What's that?
Hey, Janet, can you go
Uh-huh.
down one slide? I wonder if I have include that in here or not.
All right here.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I didn't include that here. Sorry.
All right.
Can you go back up to
Yeah.
the exploded view? That's a bad term to use, but that's how we use it of the
Yeah.
SLS.
This right here.
Keep going up. Keep going up.
Uh-huh.
I don't have a picture of the capsule. I wish I
Oh, this
Right
one right here. Yeah.
right here. So what Artemis is talking about is what we call a launch abort system.
Yes.
Right up there, very tip of it. Okay, so what that is that as I mentioned earlier, part of our job is to design software to determine when the vehicle is going to fail. Is it going to fail? Okay, it's like, yeah, caution light. It's not that bad. We can still go in. Or something bad as an oops, engine just blew up, or oops, we just have a big crack. So we need to get the astronaut off. So in first 2.5 minutes of the flight, close to 3 minutes, we're going to use this called a launch abort system. All that is a solid rocket motor at the tip of it. When we tell the crew, the Orion capsule, it says, get off, get off, get off. So actually, we use the word abort. Okay, it's all done by computer. Okay, they're going to fire the system. They're going to pull the capsule away from the rocket. And so kind of like a parachute, and then you're going to, once you get it, you're going to jettison, and the capsule is going to parachute back to Earth. And that is the way to protect the crew, from one of the most dangerous flight of the mission, which is the first 2 minutes of the flight. Okay.
You know what? That is such a great question. I didn't know that piece was that either. So thank
Oh,
you.
there's video on board, and so okay, so if you talk about SpaceX has different board system. There's more push. It's kind of from the bottom, and NASA uses tractor, which is pull, which is
And I
something we
think
learned.
this design was also on the Russian Soyuz rocket.
Correct, on
And they
Russian
have
also on.
used it once.
Yes, I
successfully.
heard about that, about why they use it. Yeah, and we also use it on the Apollo program. We never had to use it in flight, but we did test them out.
But the
Yeah.
Russians did. The Russians had to use it once.
And I think also they did the one, if I remember correctly, also did it by mistake.
I'm not sure about that. I thought that was a
thought-
real emergency.
I know
Anyway,
this one. Yeah, there was an
the
emergency.
astronauts survived. They
Yeah.
got a scare, and they were bumped when
Correct.
they came down. Very hard landing, more than it would normally be, but they survived.
Oh yeah, okay, so
Nothing
that's a good question. That's good. So do you know why when Artemis says the Russian has a hard landing? Do you know why is that?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
Yes,
Abby, can you unmute your mic? Yeah, do you know why?
Finally got it this time. Because they don't land in the water, they land on land.
exactly.
And why is that?
That's a trick question.
I just
Because
watched a
Kazakhstan,
documentary
where
on
they come
Netflix.
from, where they are
It did
launched
not
Oh,
say.
Judah, I think has it. So Judah, you want to answer why?
Because in Russia there's not many oceans. Well, there's not any oceans or seas.
That's good. Okay, so yeah, essentially it's when Russian launched a rocket, they launch in the land.
Oh, and Abby has something additionally. Go ahead, baby.
And in Kazakhstan, right?
Correct. Yeah. So the Russian spaceport is essentially middle of nowhere, surrounded by land. So when they have to land, guess what? You have land. In U.S., okay, no pun intended. In U.S., we launch off the beach, Kennedy Space Center. Okay. So when we do launch the rocket, our launch escape system. Okay, if something bad on the path, we fly toward the ocean. Okay, on shuttle we fly either up the east coast or direct due east, and on SLS we're going to fly due east toward Bermuda. Okay, and if we need to do an abort, we abort toward the ocean. Okay, that is still dangerous too, because one, the ocean is not that deep out there. Okay, so you make sure that you have enough parachute that will slow you down, because you don't want to splash down into 10 feet of water. Water is hard, so you want to slow it down. Okay, that's a good question.
Excellent.
Okay, and then I got some cool videos. I don't know how good the internet connection is. I don't want you to test it out.
I can try. Do you want to
Okay,
choose one?
try this one. So I mentioned about the motor, okay,
Mhm.
the large scale solid booster. So about a couple weeks ago, out in Utah, okay, out in the middle of nowhere, okay, a company called, okay, they changed their names a couple of times, Northrop Grumman, okay, I used to call them Cycall. They'll build solid rocket motor. Solid rocket motor is like firecracker, okay, they're huge. They're and they're about size, I don't know, of a couple of train cars. And this is a full scale testing, okay, of a single booster. And that booster has about 3.5 million pounds of thrust. Okay. Now, if you can click on video, Janet.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
5,
Whoops.
4,
Let me see
3,
here.
2.
Okay, so I have to stop the share of your slides and go
That's
over and
fine.
share this. But this looks pretty good.
It's 2.5 minutes.
Can
Okay.
you please put the links in the chat?
Yes.
Yeah, I will, baby. And what I will also do is I'm going to send this out to your grown-ups a little bit later. All right, here we go. Anything you want to say about it before I hit play?
So
Yohon?
this is about 2.5 minutes. Okay, firing. Okay, it's out in Utah.
4, 3, 2, 1.
It's gonna be very loud. Well, not very loud.
5 seconds.
Yay!
Activate head and CO2. Activate. Activate
Okay.
control command forward and aft CO2.
Oh, okay, that's the wrong video. Okay. Okay, Jenny, you can pause it. Okay. Okay, so that's I put wrong video. So I was going to pull a full 2 minutes video, but you can find them online on NASA's website. So what you say is, so how many of you know the difference between a solid rocket motor and liquid?
I
No?
do, but I don't think the kids do.
Okay. Okay, so solid means that.
Oh, Judah, Judah's coming.
Judah
with
knows. Good.
Okay.
All right, Judah, what is it?
Solid rocket boosters, once you light them, they keep on going. But unlike liquid ones, you can turn them off and on.
Correct. So that's good, because this one, solids usually have higher performance, but there's a problem with that. Is the biggest problem is that you really cannot test them out. Okay, because once you light a solid rocket, too much use up the rocket. So what we do in NASA is we build both large scale and subscale but a rocket, and we test them out. So this one you saw on the video is that we test out the one, okay, that we're going to fly on Artemis 1. We actually pour the same propellant to multiple motor, and we test them out, make sure everything works out correctly. The solar rocket that we're going to use on Artemis 1 are already in Kennedy Space Center. We actually transport them on a train from Utah to, Florida. Okay, that's kind of interesting to see them.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Hey, Johan, isn't solid rocket fuel also better to keep in space if you want to refuel, because it doesn't really blend off as easy?
Yes and no. Solid rocket,
I'd love to know.
okay, solid rocket gives you a lot of performance in space. But the problem with that is, you cannot stop it. You can stop it by jettison it, okay, but then you lose that. Now, liquid propellant is pretty good because you can make them anywhere, just about anywhere, especially methane, liquid oxygen, hydrogen. But we do have to worry about bore off, which that means is that you put liquid in space, no matter how good your container is, in this case, either a metal vessel, you're gonna have some amount of hydrogen, going through the cracks, not cracks, but going through the
And so you're losing fuel.
yeah, great. So you're boiling off the fuel, okay? It's just through, not through evaporation, but through the molecule migrating through the tiny cracks in the atoms. Okay, that's a better way, that's what I'm gonna say. And so that's why we cannot store certain type of fuel in space for a long time. And that's why we use more dangerous fuel, the hypergolics, which is hydrogen, fuel to.
Very poisonous.
It's poisonous, but they're storable. You can store them for a long time. Eventually, we're probably going to nuclear with thermoelectric propulsion, but that's has its own challenges too. Okay, now so some chat here about one is about, do I use Python? I don't use Python, but my teams do. We use Python to do fast turnaround coding, like just to make sure you get the concept of, if I want to do X, Y, and Z, kind of code something up, make sure it works. So we do have folks here to use Python. Another chat is about data analysis. I don't have to is that if I was 9 to 13, how was it? Do you have any data scientists in your team? I do not have. Yes, I do. I do have one data scientist, and in our subgroup, and that person is kind of more taking data from different industry, different components, and try to assess some reliability of that components. We have other groups in NASA that deal with more data. We have folks who does statistical analysis, like they do a bunch of tests to try to find out what's the failure time, how much strength that material can hold. So we do have that. And one thing I didn't mention is that you don't have to be an engineer to work for NASA or work for space. We take all sort of people, okay? It's one, we need designers, okay? Who can visualize things. We need graphic artists, okay? Because most engineers cannot draw, okay? So you have graphic designer to draw fancy, animation. And you need technical writers, folks who can write and who can communicate. We need them to help scientists to write, because we cannot write to save our life. Some of us can't, okay? And we need public, right now we call them social media, okay? We have social media person working for NASA to tweet, to do Facebook, to do YouTube, okay? So if you're great at that, guess what? You can be able to get a job, Facebooking or send out tweets on Facebook. Just not TikTok videos, okay? And then what else? We also need engineers, scientists, geologists, medical person, because if we go into the moon and beyond and stay, we need doctors. Is there a question? No, okay. I thought Tristan raised his hand. Yes, Abby? Got a question?
Tristan's not here right now.
Oh, that's all right.
Okay.
What, Tristan, Abby, what was your question, dear?
Oh dear.
Oh, it goes in and out. There's something
sorry.
intermittent in your system, my sweet.
Yeah.
Type it in the chat if you can. And Yohon, we are coming up on time, but I do want you to talk about this. This is so funny. We have the same mindset. I get to be a judge for this particular contest for
Oh, you
future
are?
years. Yeah. So you
Oh,
guys,
okay.
it's like I'll have to make sure that you can't share your essay with me prior to, because I am usually a judge for this, much like I was a judge for the naming of the Perseverance rover. But you want to tell them about what this contest is?
No, because I just put them up yesterday, last night.
Oh,
I
well,
haven't. Yeah.
I will tell you, it's sponsored by Future Engineers. You can learn about it here. And what they're wanting to, it's open to kids K through 12. And basically you are asked to write about like a day in the life upon the moon. Like, what would your crew be doing? Like, you want to, it's very, very great. You can, their deadline's not until December 17th. But I highly, highly suggest you, much like Alex Mather and Vanessa Rupani, who named the helicopter Ingenuity, is actually from Alabama. So it could be you. I see a hand raised. Wyatt, are you asking a question? No, I saw your hand raised. But this is, you could probably submit a drawing along with your essay, but it is all right there. It's so weird that Yohon would share this, because I literally had that already drafted in an email going, oh, I've got to send out some stuff to the kids.
No, I got a friend who, who Nikki Wertheiser, who, if you don't know her, Jenna, I'll introduce you.
Please do.
And that, she can mention about this contest. Oh yeah, I guess I send it out, and bring it to the kids. And one thing is it is only open to the U.S. residents.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that
so
is
that's the downside.
yeah.
And my gift slide is some social media links. Okay, we can find out more information, and the link down the bottom, videos. We have some pretty good videos online on NASA website. And if you get any questions about, just send them to Janet, and Janet can send them to me. Okay.
And guys, this is really such a gift. It's like, I will tell you that, one of the things that I always want to, then say, Sabrina, you can get that story written.
Okay, hold on. Abby, bakers. We need cooks.
Oh,
okay,
yeah,
in space. Trust me. We don't talk about lawyers here, because we need cooks, because do you really want to eat freeze-dried canned food for 4 or 5 years? Yeah, no, I don't either.
Oh.
So we have chefs. We have NASA chefs, okay, who can design food that can last in space with minimal preparation. So once you go to Mars, once you go to the moon, okay, what are you going to do? You're going to bring your own food, or you're going to try to grow something. Eventually, you're going to grow your own greenhouse, okay? So you have to learn how to figure out, well, what can I make salad? What can do something with vegetables, okay? Now it's going to be a while before we have chicken on the moon, but we'll probably get there.
And you know why? Have you ever smelled a chicken coop?
Yes. Okay. It's good. Yeah. And who knows? We may have some artificial, beyond beef up
fish. there. We could eat fish.
Yeah,
tilapia,
fish.
rice.
No, fish in 0G. I seen some video when they did some experiment on a space station.
And the fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the moon is not 0G. The moon is just lighter G.
Correct, but yeah, you can actually induce a more 1G environment on the moon if we design it, if we want to. But yeah, so we don't know. We actually don't. Personally, I do not know what we're going to do in long term. Definitely baker, because if you can grow wheat, you can actually make bread. Okay, that'll be interesting to see how microgravity how the bread will rise in microgravities. Yeah.
Great questions, you guys.
Great questions.
Yes. And so if you have any additional questions, there are tons of links. Know they are coming to you probably not until later this afternoon, only because Miss Janet has so many classes and another conference to speak at today. But here is my last thing. Make friends with everyone you meet. I met Yohon Low, I believe, in 2011 at an ISDC in Huntsville, Alabama.
Longer than that.
It was even before that, right?
Before that, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know when, but yeah.
I don't know. We'll both tell our age if we tell when. The point is, you will always find those people. It's just something about like attracts like. For years, Yohon has done some fantastic work with students in Alabama. Our love of education kind of like brought us together. But I am telling you this, make friends even now in our little astronaut academy. Who but knows that you guys are the future, that one of these days you'll go to Yohon and you'll be like, I heard you speak.
No, it's gonna be the other way around. One day it'll be like, hey, Abby, I need a job.
There you
She'll
go.
be running some space program for some
And
company.
also, boys and girls, I can honestly say that women around me, like 35 years ago when I met them, they had, a simple job as a lawyer or something like that. They became leaders in the Netherlands, not prime minister, because we haven't had a female yet, but, cabinet members, mayors of big cities, important engineers in one of the biggest engineering projects we had in the Netherlands, all friends of mine, all of this group of women.
Yeah.
So this group of fellow
Okay.
students, you don't know where we are in 35 years.
Yeah. So one thing I want to do is, Janice said, I wish I had time to talk this. So most of you know about Kennedy Space Center. Okay, so we have in space, we have a launch director whose job is to make sure the rocket takes off, and we have a flight director in Houston that makes sure that everything is good on flight. The launch director for Artemis 1 is a woman. Okay, and I don't know if you know her, Janet. I only met her a few times. Try to not drive her crazy because I still owe her stuff. She's from South Carolina. She's graduated from Clemson University. She'll be the first woman flight launch director.
Oh, you have to somehow introduce us. I don't know her.
She's swamped. Okay, it's always busy. And then we do have flight director. We do have a few women flight directors already. And I know the first flight director for Artemis 1 is a guy. Artemis 2, I don't know who that person is yet, but I think I know who that is. And yeah, so just find something you love to do, okay? And that's the advice I can do is that, today you may like space, tomorrow you may like music. Doesn't really matter. Just find something you love to do and just pursue it. And in space, space is our future. We're going to space no matter what. I don't care who you talk to. Eventually, we'll leave this planet. Unless we destroy it, then that's a different story. And we need everybody in space. Baker, musician, lawyers. Yes, true, we do need lawyers in space. Policemen, security guards, janitor. Heck, we need mechanics. Somebody who can fix stuff. Okay,
Yes.
if you know how to tinker stuff, you know how to say, you know what, something broke, and you can fix it without somebody in Houston telling you what to do. Apply for an NASA job, okay? Because we want you on our next mission to Mars and beyond. Because sometimes it's just a lot faster for you to fix something instead of waiting for Houston to say, "Oh yeah, we'll get back to you in 2 hours." By then you probably be dead already,
Right. And welders and plumbers and you
Yes.
name it. If we're going there, we're going to need.
Great.
And we do have basically all of these great kids have all kinds of beautiful animals, from turtles to bunnies to goats to cats. And so, yes, I am sure that eventually we will want to take our fur friends with us as well. So an animal expert in space. And especially if we want to ever have, as Judah put it, space cow. So
It's coming.
It's
It's
coming.
space, yeah.
It's coming. Okay, guys, will you guys all unmute and say thank you to Dr. Yohon Lowe? And Yohon, thank you so much for your time today. You're marvelous.
So sweet.
Everybody unmute and say thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys.